Here we go. With the new year upon us, a lot of runners are registering for races. They're getting their goal races set up for the winter and spring seasons. And because of that, they're planning their training. And a big part of that training preparation is figuring out your mileage levels from week to week. And what I'd like to do in this video is talk about a better way of increasing your mileage so that you always know whether or not you're increasing by too much or by too little. Probably the most popular strategy for increasing your weekly mileage is what's known as the 10% rule. It's a rule that's meant to prevent injuries, and it says that runners shouldn't increase their weekly mileage by more than 10% per week. Now, I think the 10% rule is incomplete at best, because if we think about it, the 10% rule really breaks down at very low mileage levels and at really high mileage levels. So back when I was running 80 to 90 miles a week, there's no way I could adhere to the 10% rule because I would just be adding way too much mileage from week to week. And at very low mileage levels, like let's say you're just getting back into running and you're running, say, 10 or 15 miles per week. You can see how adding 1 or 1.5 miles on a weekly basis is so conservative that it's not even really necessary. We can do a little bit better and increase our mileage more strategically as opposed to blindly following the 10% rule. I think the 10% rule works great when you're in the 30, 40, maybe 50 mile a week range, but like I said, it's incomplete. What the 10% rule misses, in addition to simply breaking down at those low and high mileage levels, is how you're feeling and what kind of mileage levels you're personally used to. So if you're someone who hits peak mileage levels of maybe 50 or 60 miles a week in peak training, you can increase a lot more quickly at certain stages of that mileage building process. So let's talk about a more strategic way of building mileage than simply adding 10% every week. A more comprehensive strategy for building your mileage is to know what I call your baseline mileage. This is a level of weekly mileage that you're very comfortable doing. And so this is something that is going to be different for every runner, and I really can't give you specific mileage levels to shoot for. Some runners might be very comfortable running 20 miles a week. Some runners might be very comfortable running 40 miles a week. I know that when I was training competitively, I was fairly comfortable running 60 to 70 miles per week because I had been doing it for years. But when I started getting up to 75, 80 miles a week, and certainly 85 miles a week, I was very fatigued and it made me quite sore. And so I knew that when I was at those higher mileage levels, I needed to be more careful. And on the flip side of that coin, when I was at lower mileage levels, 30, 40, 50 miles per week, I could be a little bit more aggressive. So for this strategy to work, you must know your baseline mileage. And one of the best ways of understanding your baseline mileage is to look at your training log, to look at weeks and months and maybe even years of training and try to figure out where you feel comfortable. Is it 20 miles a week? Is it 30 miles a week? Is it 40 miles a week? And once you know your baseline mileage, then you can really start this process in earnest. And what you want to do is make sure that whenever you're increasing your mileage when you're under your baseline mileage, you can be more aggressive than the 10% rule. So let's just say you're comfortable running about 30, 35 miles a week, and you've just run a half marathon or a marathon, you took a week off, and your first week back, you start running, say, 15 miles a week. Very easy, you're just seeing how your body feels. The next week, you can add more than 10%. You are used to these mileage levels. They are more than comfortable. And once you're fully recovered from that race, you can begin to add more mileage a little bit more aggressively than 10%. So your first week back might be 15 miles per week. Your second week back might be 20 or 22. And then from there, you can get back to your 30 to 35 mile a week average or baseline very quickly, within a couple weeks. And if you look at the percentages of those couple weeks of mileage increases, they will far exceed 10% per week. But it's okay, because it's mileage levels that are very comfortable for you. Now, if you can be more aggressive when you're building mileage up to your baseline mileage, you can be a lot less aggressive. And in fact, I would recommend being very conservative when you are increasing mileage beyond your baseline mileage. Because when you're running mileage beyond that baseline, beyond the point at which you are comfortable, well, by definition, you're uncomfortable. You are a little bit more fatigued. Maybe the mileage level is causing you to be sore. Maybe you're running an extra day per week than you're used to. This extra stress demands more time for your body to recover, and time for your body to adapt to this new stress. And so what I like to see runners do is maybe increase your mileage by 10% every 2 weeks instead of every week. And then once you start getting very much beyond your baseline mileage, I like to see runners be even more conservative. Let's not increase your mileage too quickly. And in fact, there's a lot of value in simply staying at a given mileage level. If it's stressful for you, then those weeks of extra stress compound over time, and you really get a lot of benefit from running a slightly uncomfortable number of miles per week over and over and over again. So if we're taking this 30 to 35 mile per week hypothetical runner, maybe they get up to 40 miles per week, but they stay there for 2 weeks. And then maybe their next week is 43, and they stay there for a week, but then they go up to 45. These increases are relatively small from a percentage perspective. But if you can do this gradually, every couple weeks, only adding a few miles, you'll actually be surprised at how many miles you will then be capable of running, because you're adding them very slowly over time. You're giving your body that time to adjust to that new stress, and you're going to become a lot stronger too. Now, if you are currently in the mileage building process, let's remember that especially when you are over your baseline mileage, all of those mileage increases should be done at a very easy effort. You are prioritizing volume. You are not prioritizing pace. So sometimes the extra mileage that you're running, maybe that extra day of running you add to your schedule, sometimes that is just done at a recovery effort. And you might be wondering, well, am I getting any value from this? Am I getting any benefit from not really doing this at a pace that is challenging to me, a pace that feels like I'm working hard? But there absolutely is. And I definitely think you should first just complete the mileage at a very, very easy effort. And then over time, as your body adjusts to it, you can then settle into your normal, easy running pace. You can increase the effort of these runs, and you can start building workouts into these runs. But first, keep it really easy so that you're getting the volume in, but in the least stressful way possible. It's also a good idea not to do very difficult workouts when you are running mileage that's far beyond your baseline mileage. You can get there over time, but first, I love to see runners just get there without any workouts. You could do strides a couple times a week. You can certainly do maybe an easy tempo run or some half marathon or marathon pace work. Even a short fartlek workout would work really great. But when you are in that sort of danger zone of running very high mileage, I know for me that was 85 to 90 miles a week. Whenever I hit 90 miles a week or my weekly mileage PR of 91, I got injured. The next week I always had some niggle come up. So when you are in that zone, try to avoid the really grueling workouts. They're gonna make your training a lot more stressful. They're gonna up the workload of that training week, and it's gonna make adding extra mileage that much more difficult. So as you are planning your training out for 2022, hoping to set perhaps some training PRs of maybe your highest weekly mileage yet, I hope this video was helpful. The next question then becomes, well, how do I structure my mileage in these weeks? Whether you're running 40 miles a week or more, or maybe even less. I want you to check out our planning weekly mileage training video that I'm going to link underneath this video. It goes into detail on how you actually would set up the mileage over the course of a week, so that once you get into those higher mileage levels that maybe you don't have any experience with yet, now you know how to structure it, and that is going to make all the difference.